The heel up, where your heel is up in the position just before you make the stroke, okay? And you make the stroke using more of your whole leg, like this. This is great for playing loud and certain things where you don't want to tighten up these muscles for playing a constant flow of eighth notes or something like that. Okay, so what you want to do is develop each one of these techniques individually, and you don't want to just rely on one way. I like to use a combination of them. One thing you don't want to do is bury the beater into the head, okay, like this. Okay, this is a real lazy way of playing the bass drum. Sometimes it feels good to do that, but what happens is you cut the note short. Instead of that bass drum ringing out, you're basically cutting it down. It's like hitting a drum like that. Okay, so be careful not to do that. Here's a groove that uses constant eighth notes in the kick drum. And what we're going to do is we're just going to play those eighth notes that we had been playing on the hi-hats over to here. This is great for building up the foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. A little faster. 1, 2, 3. And what I like to do is spend a little time on some grooves that use two eighth notes in the bass drum. Now you're starting to add a little bit more, and we have to make sure that these notes are equal in volume. So here's a couple of grooves that use that. I'm going to play these two measures in length, and I'm going to play them at two different tempos. One a little slower, just so you get the hang of it, and then one a little faster. 1, 2, 3. Faster. 1, 2, 3. We'll take that same idea now and take it over to the snare drum. 2 eighth notes on the snare drum. Real popular beat from the 50s. You'd hear bands like the Beatles or Fats Domino. This is really your classic old rock and roll beat. And this is what this sounds like. 1, 2, 3. Okay, a lot of times you'd even hear these guys accent that second note. That sound like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now what you do is a lot of drumming is made up of just taking a simple idea and creating a little variety. And you don't want to be playing that same old stuff throughout a whole tune. So what a lot of times you do is just take that groove and change it a little bit by taking your right hand off the hi-hat, putting it up over here, maybe even putting those two notes on the tom-tom. 1, 2, 3. Okay, like that. Take the eighth notes, put them on the floor tom. Now you're surfing. 1, 2, 3. How about splitting it up? 1, 2, 3. Okay? So there you go. There's a couple of things to think about. Real early rock and roll consisted of these kind of beats, so it's a good idea to be aware of that. What you can do now is start to play beats that use upbeats on the bass drum. And what an upbeat basically is all the and beats of the eighth notes. This is why it is so important to be able to count out loud 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and really have that internalized, because these beats are going to start and stop in a little bit more of an unusual spot, rather than always starting on what I call a downbeat or on the quarter note, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are going to now start and stop on upbeats. Okay, so here's a couple of basic beats that use an upbeat kick idea. I'll play these slow at first. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Remember, just keep counting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. A little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, syncopation basically means to put an accent in a beat pattern that you normally wouldn't play or hear one. It's a way of deceiving your ear a little bit, either playing an accent in a beat that's a little later or a little earlier than you normally would hear it. Let's just take this 2-measure beat at first. This will be like a normal rock beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I'm going to do is just change this beat a little bit by putting a little bit of an accent a little later than you would normally hear it on beat 4 in the 2nd measure. And it's something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now so far, I've been playing the hi-hat with basically a real tight, short sound closed. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. You can vary the groove by playing the hi-hats half open. And what that involves is just basically lifting the hi-hat a little bit with the left foot, not getting crazy and letting them flop all over the place, but just a little bit of tension to keep them somewhat closed. But now you're going to go for a little more sustain, a sound that really rocks and cuts through the band. Here's a demonstration of that. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can play them open and closed, open and closed. This is real popular like with disco or funk, where you would open the hi-hat on all the and beats. All the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. And you get this effect by kind of rocking your left foot back and forth like this, okay? Here it is just by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you don't have to open it on every and beat. You can play it on the and of 1 and the and of 3. And this is something that you hear in a lot of James Brown's hits from the 60s. 1, 2, 3. How about just the and of 4? 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we don't always have to play the eighth notes over here. Let's try playing some on the ride cymbal. Remember, in the context of music in a song, you want to use as many devices as possible to kind of build things up, to kind of create some kind of tension and release. And a great way to do that is to start playing the eighths over here. And we can do that a number of different ways. You can play it just like this, in this area. You can accent a quarter note on the bell, something like this. Okay, it's kind of an up and down motion. And what this does is it frees the hi-hat to be stepped on. You can basically play the hi-hat now on all 4 beats, and what I use for a lot is like with the bass drum where I played it heel up. I use this almost exclusively with the hi-hat. It feels a lot better and you can get a good chunk and a good click out of these things. So here's just a beat with a quarter note hi-hat stepped. 1, 2, 3. Okay, how about the hi-hat on just beats 2 and 4? 1, 2, 3. A real popular way to break up the time in a rock and roll tune is by going from a regular feel or regular time to halftime. And this is achieved by spreading the beat out a little further. The tempo stays the same. What's happening now is you're playing the bass drum on 1 and the snare drum on 3 rather than always on 2 and 4. And here's just a real basic version. I'll play 4 bars of regular time, 4 bars of halftime. 1, 2, 3. Now, as you're checking out all the material in this video, I really encourage you to spend some time, rewind anything, and play back many times something that you didn't quite have together on your own. Okay, it's a great idea. You've got the tool right there. I do it all the time myself with other videos. So take the time, rewind. Don't be in a rush to get everything. Now I'd like to talk about double time. Double time is sort of the opposite of halftime. What we're going to do is we're going to take the groove and we're going to contract it a little bit. It's going to sound like it's getting faster. The tempo remains the same. What's happening now is that the notes between the bass drum and the snare drum are becoming more rapid. And you can hear this a lot in heavy metal and thrash. Okay? This is why it's so important to be able not only to count individual beats, but the measures as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play 4 measures of regular time, 4 measures of double time, followed by 4 measures of regular time again. So you kind of get the feeling of what the transition is like. Okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. We're ready to rock now using 16th notes. 16th notes are twice as fast as 8th notes. Or you can think of it like 4 evenly spaced notes to 1 beat. Now here's a great exercise that you can use to kind of feel the transition between quarter notes, 8th notes, and 16th notes. What we want to have is some kind of a metronome or maybe a bass drum beat on all 4 beats. And what we're going to do is we're going to gradually go from one to the other. What I want you to do is play some time with the bass drum, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, when you got that going, 3, 4. Just play quarter notes with your right hand. 1, 8th notes with the right hand. What you're going to do is you're going to fill in all of the opposite notes with your left hand, all the fill-in notes, and now you've got 16ths. I'll start off with quarters, then 8ths, and go to 16ths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, it is absolutely necessary to be able to count the 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Develop this skill without even playing at the set. You will be really thankful that you did, because all of the beats that I'm going to really present to you now involve not playing all the 16th notes that are possible in a measure, but just little bits and pieces of one. So in order for you to hit and precisely nail the rhythms, you're going to have that internal counting clock. That mechanism has to be in place. Here's the first beat I'm going to present to you. It's a real common rock funk beat you've heard in a lot of tunes, and it's got just 1/16th note in it. But what I want you to do is, in your mind, count even though you're not playing all the 16ths, okay? 1, 2, 3, E and a 4, E and a 1. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and a 2. That little snare beat just before 3 is the beat of the 16th note. Okay? Count these things. Here's another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? You do that just a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay? You got to feel that 16th note. Here's another one, real common one now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? The and the E. Once again, really important to spend some time with some kind of reading material or a private teacher and get the reading thing together. I strongly recommend it. Okay, let's take a basic kick drum part and we'll just kind of develop it. I'll show you what you would go through sometimes as you're developing a part for a song. So I'm going to play one idea and then I'm going to start to develop it. The basic kick drum part goes like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now what you want to do is maybe get a little creative with it. You don't want to play just all those notes. You maybe want to start spreading them out. So I'm going to play that figure just on beat 1 and beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, how about just on beat 1? 1, 2, 3. How about on beat 1 and then maybe change the last half of the measure so we're getting a little bit of variety happening here. Here's 2 possible ideas. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, how about creating a 2-measure phrase of just little bits and pieces of things that I've already kind of touched on? 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically what you're doing here is you're taking a small idea, whether it be a snare drum part or a kick drum part, and you're finding just how many ways you can manipulate it. When you're either writing a tune or you're listening to somebody, it's how well versed are you in what you play? How many different ways can you use what you know how to play? So a lot of rock tunes are real successful for the fact that the drum beat becomes like a hook, just as much as the lyrics, just as much as the bass line or the guitar riff. It's something that becomes part of the song. So you want to kind of mix variety with the basic theme. You want to sort of allude to other ideas, but you don't want to lose that basic hook, that basic thing that kind of made you like the beat to begin with. So initially, just watch how much variety you throw into some of the beats when you're playing with other people. I have a few suggestions for you as you're sitting alone in your practice room and you're trying to work on some stuff that you've never been able to play before. Okay, and this is a very frustrating thing. This is really what makes or breaks certain players, is their ability to be able to get over the hump of learning new material. One suggestion is slow the tempo down, okay? Practice, I don't care what you do, it has to be in some kind of tempo. If you can't play it slow, chances are when you speed it up, it's not going to help the issue. Remember, when you're playing live with musicians, that's really their first concern. Does this person groove? Can they play in time? Does it feel good? Okay, so have some discipline when you're in the practice room. And this is a difficult thing because you really have to keep yourself in check. Okay, it's really easy to sit down at the drums, which are a fun instrument, and kind of just go off and bang this and bang that. But you really want to kind of rein that in and develop a certain sense of being able to check your progress. So slowing the tempo down is one way to get down new material. Here's another way that you don't have to slow the tempo down, and that is you take maybe a one measure beat that you're trying to play. And what you do is you don't play the whole beat. You start to break it down to its components, still keeping time happening. I'm going to give a little demonstration of that. Say this is your one measure beat. 1, 2, 3. Okay, keep the hi-hat going almost like a metronome. No matter what happens, you keep that hi-hat going. And now you're just going to play what occurs on beat 1. The rest of the time you count. You don't play beats 2, 3, or 4. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you got that. That feels perfect every time. Don't go on if it doesn't. Why add the rest of it if that first part isn't together? So you got that. Let's add beat 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you got that. That feels good. Let's add beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's play the whole beat in its entirety. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could even put a bar of open space in there and just play the beat. But what really this forces you to delay your gratification. You're not playing the whole thing from entire, beginning to end. You're breaking it down and you're adding the more you're comfortable with it in little sections, okay? And this forces you to deal with each little part before you really play the whole thing. So try this the next time you're in the practice room and you want to get something difficult together. I hope you've enjoyed learning with this video. I have enjoyed putting it together for